going to bring in the 24/7 Sports czar of the transfer portal, as I like to call him, our very own Travis Branham. Trav, thanks for joining us here today.
Of course, man. Always happy to be here.
All right, so I want to talk about a few different guys. Obviously, we saw this be a huge week for Michigan in Dusty May, but one name that we did not see was Johnell Davis, who was widely speculated to be following his former head coach and become a Wolverine, but thus far we have not seen or heard anything. So what is the latest with Johnell Davis?
Yeah, this is becoming a two-man race, but quickly trending in the direction of Arkansas pulling away as the ultimate victor. As of today, they are gaining all sorts of momentum heading into the weekend. The other team that had been speculated around them was Kentucky, the team that is trying to fill out a roster as we speak, just like John Calipari. But again, as we're heading into this weekend, all the buzz is surrounding the Arkansas Razorbacks, and ultimately, that's where I'm predicting he will land.
All right, so interestingly enough, you hear that Michigan appears to be, am I understanding you correct, Trav? Michigan is not in the mix for Johnell Davis at this point?
That is correct. Michigan is not in the picture. There's been speculation whether it be not being able to get in academically or NIL related. Either way, at this point, not anticipating Dusty May being in the race for his star guard.
All right, interesting there. All right, we're going to keep it in the backcourt. And I want to ask you about Javon Small, because as the guards keep flying off the board, this is a player who stuffed the entire stat sheet last year for Oklahoma State. He really filled it up. He can impact the game in a variety of different ways. What is the latest on his recruitment right now?
He was on an official visit to Ole Miss yesterday. So Chris Beard and the Rebels will be a factor here. But he is not done taking visits yet. He is actually in the midst of setting up 3 more visits as we speak. First and foremost, looking like he will be heading to Kansas for an official visit. And that, to me, is becoming a very intriguing program and one that I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on in the weeks ahead. Kansas just lost their incoming freshman point guard last night in LeBaron Falan. So they're going to be looking to fill their backcourt. And as we all know, they are trying to get older and fast. The other 2 teams that he is expected to set visits to include Villanova and West Virginia. So this one is not coming down to an imminent decision, although he did, again, just visit Ole Miss yesterday. So, again, one we will be keeping a very close eye on in the days and weeks ahead.
Now, Jayhawk fans, make sure you stay tuned because we are going to dig into Kansas's class, both high school and transfer portal, as this show goes on. It's important to note, though, they do have DeJuan Harris coming back at the point. Small, of course, can play on and off the ball. Be very interesting to see what happens. And again, we are going to talk about that more later. All right, let's go up front. Now, we have seen a just collection of big men jump into the portal here. It seems like there's a new high impact starter big put his name in and test this market, so to speak, with each passing day. One of who's getting a lot of traction is Jonas Adou, though, the former Tennessee big man. What is the latest on his process?
Yeah, his recruitment here has been pretty fluid, to say the least. Took a visit to Baylor last weekend. I actually had put a crystal ball in for Baylor to land Adou, and I still do think that they are the leaders in the clubhouse. However, UNC is not going to go down without a fight. They are continuing their pursuit of the Tennessee big man. And another team he is headed to take a visit to this weekend is Arkansas. And Arkansas, again, it's been widely talked about just how much spending power that they have down there in Fayetteville. He is going to be one drawing a big price tag. So will he get on campus? And will they ultimately land him? That is one that I'm going to be keeping a close eye on throughout the weekend. We all know what happened yesterday with Arkansas. Jane Quaintance officially announces that he will not be following John Calipari. Also, would go ahead and like to say that Santos Cyril is not expected to follow John Calipari to Arkansas. It's not totally ruled out, but as of right now, it is looking very unlikely. So John Calipari is in need of a big man to go with Big Z, and Jonas Adou, I would imagine they're going to be very aggressive with.
Trev, I want to go off script a little bit here, but you mentioned the bigs who may not be following Calipari. Ugonna put his name in the portal as well. He's also declared for the NBA draft. Is there any clarity at this point about like what he may be interested in doing? Because initially it sounded like he was full-fledged towards the NBA. I, as someone who watched him throughout his prep school days at Putnam Science, wasn't sure that was the best thing for him to do in terms of his NBA stock. And then the news came about the portal a few days later. But is he someone that Arkansas might be interested in?
Well, to not beat around the bush, Onyenso, Ugonna Kingsley, he's been one that we've been anticipating is going to transfer out of Kentucky for months now.
Right.
So with that, that was before John Calipari was ever even rumored to be taking the Arkansas job. That's not to say he won't follow John Calipari, but given the fact that this was already on the table when John Calipari was his head coach at the University of Kentucky, I'm not. I'm considering all options on the table for
Yeah,
Kingsley
not
as of now.
anticipating that move necessarily. Then want to keep it at Kentucky and ask you about Adou Thiero. Is that how did I mispronounce his name there?
Adou Thiero.
Adou Thiero. I'm the master of mispronunciations. That's what they're. It's a good thing my last name's easy to say. Pittsburgh native. I know Pittsburgh obviously has a spot to fill with Bub Carrington going pro. Obviously, I think he would be appealing to a lot of different programs because he's so versatile on the wing and because he's made such strides after being a late blooming high school kid. But what do we know about his process right now?
Yeah, he has cut his list down to 5, Pittsburgh being one of those, Arkansas being another, and a return to Kentucky being another. However, I do not anticipate him coming back to Kentucky. I do not anticipate him following John Calipari to Arkansas. So that leaves just 3 teams, but the 2 ones I'm looking at the closest here is Pittsburgh, again, hometown, and the North Carolina Tar Heels. We finally got a decision out of Harrison Ingram recently, and it seems that the interest levels are picking up quickly between both parties with Thiero and the Tar Heels. He would be a perfect fit in that Harrison Ingram style role with his size, his defensive versatility, the energy he brings to the floor, and the untapped potential he still has to continue growing and evolving on the offensive end. I would anticipate, again, that the North Carolina Tar Heels will continue to ramp up this interest in the team that I have my eye on the closest.
All right. Now, does that mean that you're expecting Ingram to stay in the draft? Obviously, Harrison Ingram recently declared for the NBA draft. There's been a lot of news out of Chapel Hill. RJ Davis coming back, Harrison Ingram declaring. But of course, just because you're declaring doesn't mean you're staying in the draft. But is it your belief that Ingram is going to be leaning towards keeping his spot in this 2024 NBA draft?
Yeah, as of now, that's kind of the indications that we are all going with here. That wasn't necessarily part of his announcement. He kind of left that open ended. He didn't say he was
Sure.
going to be signing with an agent and making this official. He will not be coming back to college. But with the way that North Carolina is operating moving forward, it appears to me that they are planning that he will be staying in the draft, and just gauging his kind of draft stock at this moment. The season he had, the versatility he provides on the floor, the shot making that he was able to show this past season. I mean, it would be a bit of a surprise to me to not at least see him get a guarantee of some sorts in that second round.
And this is, of course, a player that flirted with the NBA even back before he arrived at North Carolina when he was at Stanford. So that is good context there as it relates to what's happening in Chapel Hill with North Carolina. Last guy I want to ask you about is Brandon Garrison. This is a former McDonald's All-American who was in the portal really quickly. And even as commitments have continued to fly off the board, even as new big men have joined the market, he is still open in his process. So it's a little surprising that we haven't seen him move quite as fast as some of the other players to go in the portal as early as he did. But where are things at right
He has been one of the more interesting and fluid transfers out there. As soon as he hit the portal, all expectations were that he is going to be sticking close to home. The 2 teams that were picking up the most buzz in those early days was Oklahoma and Kansas. However, weeks have gone by since he entered the portal. Oklahoma remains involved, but we have been seeing a mix of schools enter the picture, both enter and exit the picture, I should say. And now the 3 teams that seem to be the most active in this recruitment is Oklahoma again, also Texas, a team that's not too far from home, and the Arkansas Razorbacks. And again, Arkansas is going to be need of filling this front court, so a good option to have as they also chase Adou. one falls through, maybe they get more aggressive and try to land the other.
Coach Cal needs a big. That is a theme of this discussion. Trav, as always, thank you for your knowledge, your expertise, and all the inside information you bring to the show. Everybody, you can follow Trav online, 247sports.com, for all the latest in the transfer portal. Again, wall-to-wall coverage, recruiting rankings, transfer portal updates. It's all there, 247sports.com.